All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Heroes World Quarantine podcast. I am here with proprietors of Heroes World, both John and Andre. And I'm here with removing the tag of special guest star. I'm now adding the title of Resident Trickster. After all the shenanigans he's pulled for the last 4 weeks, he is new Loki.
He's like Paste Pot Pete.
He is Kid Loki in our new opinion, where he drops non-true facts on people's stuff. So whether it's George Clooney for me, or the fact that Andre loves Anakin Skywalker's run in the Clone Wars, or John, who does not like Han from Fast and Furious. So I'm looking forward to see what kind of misdirection that Rob is going to give us today. Okay, so after the pod/video cast we did the other way, we thought that, as you can see from the background, it'd be a good idea for us to continue on our conversation on Superman. So today we're going to do part 2 of a 2-part series, which no one realized it was a 2-part series on Superman,
including us.
Including us. So before we go, let's talk.
We can call it a prequel.
Yeah, prequel. So let's talk quickly about support and comments. Thank you again for all your support and comments. We do read everything. Rob and John are commenting back on the videos. Support on the D&D one was great. We appreciate everyone that was on that one, as well as all the Snyder / Superman for the last few weeks. So thank you. Like, subscribe, and do all those fun things that all the other YouTubers tell you to do. And I just want to let everyone know that, again, John and Andre have a store. So if you do like any of the things commented upon, they do have merch, whether it's comic books, board games.
Some random stuff. NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. Yep.
Some
so they have
fun stuff. We got a lot of toys.
Toys, comics, board games. So they have the Gambit D&D, so dice, books, stuff for kids, CCGs.
Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Pathfinder,
Magic Gathering.
Magic the Gathering.
New Magic set. Yeah.
New Magic set. So again, there's a lot of different things they have there. So
Star Wars stuff.
Lots of fancy things there. So before we go forward, oh boy, where can people find more of your store, John and Andre?
Yeah. On Facebook, you search Heroes World Online. We do have a website as well, heroesworldonline.com. And then I'm on the Instagram, jho.heroesworld. And you can email us at sales.heroesworld@gmail.com as well.
And Andre?
And if you want to come and visit us and you are in the GTA, we are in Markham, Ontario. We are conveniently located at 8601 Warden Avenue. And good news is, as of Wednesday, which I think was the 27th, our store was opened back up after being shut down for the pandemic. So we're growing, we're rearranging, we're moving stuff, and I think we're going to come back a little bit different, but better, stronger. It's almost like Heroes World 3.0, because first store, then we moved into the second store. Now we've really changed this one up because of the pandemic. But I think we've got. I think it's going to be cooler. I think people are going to dig it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to John's Instagram live tour, or Facebook live tour of the new thing. So we'll hopefully get something started so that people show what it's like in your store and give that view and perspective. So that'll be exciting. So as we discussed, Superman, at this weird juncture with the pandemic, and hopefully everyone's being safe, look to Superman as kind of the ray of sunshine and hope. So that's one of the reasons why we decided to continue with the Superman theme and talk about some positive things. So the positive thing today is Superman, as Rob has him, multiple statues on depending on the left or right, depending on that, and
yes.
then
a vintage figure that includes the cloth cape.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. 1986.
Yep. So we are going to do several topics today. So I'll read them out loud so people at home know what we're doing. So, and then we're going to go, and for John, and then we'll do our typical format.
I know exactly what's going on.
So the top 3 topics today is, what is your favorite Superman comic book storyline. 2 is what is
Topic
your
number 1.
favorite Superman in television or movies? And then 3rd is what is your favorite Superman moment? So those are our 3 topics. We're going to start off with John first. So the order is John, myself, Rob, and Andre.
I'm so surprised.
So yeah, surprised. So then we're gonna go that, and we're gonna let John go first. So again, the first topic, just for everyone at home, again, it's what is your favorite Superman comic book storyline? So John, start us off. What is your favorite comic book storyline?
All right. So my favorite Superman, I had to pinpoint this. I wanted to say Superman Birthright, but I'm actually going to go a little older school to one of my early Superman memories, and that's going to be the death of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little older, it's a little dated, but just the memories I get from that and that epic battle of Superman wanting to take down Doomsday no matter the cost, and Doomsday as a character was just like literally a force of nature. Yeah. Look at that. Rob's got like one of the newer printings. I thought he would have an older printing. Oh.
So can you give us a little bit of a snapshot of what the storyline is? Like what is it about?
For those of you that don't know, which would be surprising, there's this creature, the Doomsday, that kind of drops down. I don't know if I'll delve too much in his origin. Andre could probably cover that if you really want to know in depth about what he is. But he's this unstoppable force that comes in and just destroys everything, and whatever it hurts, it adapts and becomes stronger and defeats it. So he basically takes the entire Justice League down, and it's down to Superman, who's already been burned in the midnight oil, saving the world, and then he makes that sacrifice to stop Doomsday. And it was like a huge event in comics. It came with like a black armband, all this kind of crazy stuff. I didn't read it till after the fact. The trade paperback, because I was younger, was lent to us by a friend. So shout outs to an old friend, Jason, that lent me the old trade paperback, and I just read it. So it was also one of my early introductions to and just a big epic storyline with Superman. So it's hard for me to top that. Superman Birthright is really good. That was kind of like inspiration for Man of Steel, kind of loosely. But yeah, I think I have to give it to Death of Superman as one of my all-time favorite comics.
And you talked about that introduction of Doomsday. Andre, do you have any thoughts quickly before we jump on to my pick on
yeah, so
because we've seen sorry, before I'll cue it up for you in a better capacity, because we saw a Doomsday type in a theatrical film.
Not quite.
That is not the same. So why don't we give you a second to educate the people out there on the true, I guess, chronology of Doomsday, rather than he is a reincarnation of Zod.
Right. So in the comics, it was pretty cool back then, because this was the early 90s. And at the time, Superman was released every week. There's 4 Superman titles. There was Superman, Man of Steel, Action Comics, and Adventures of Superman. So basically, you would buy these comics, and on the cover, there was a little triangle, and it told you what number that was to follow it. So you could still follow just Action Comics, but if you wanted the whole story, you were basically buying comic every week. And right before the Death of Superman arc, there was a story called Panic in the Sky. And that was where Brainiac was coming to kind of take over Earth and stuff. And of course, Superman, the Justice League, they do stop him and stuff. And Brainiac, in this kind of fit of anger at being defeated, he launches his Doomsday weapon, which he drops to Doomsday, this creature, onto Earth. And at first, nobody knew about it, but he cuts a path of destruction across the U.S. The Justice League, which was Fire, Ice, Guy Gardner, I can't remember who else. They try and stop
Booster Gold,
Blue Beetle. They just got wrecked. Like, these guys just got effed up. And then Superman, after Panic in the Sky, that, like I said, he's worn out. He saved the world and stuff, and he just keeps trying to stop Doomsday. And every time he hits him or does something, Doomsday adapts. Like, he starts pounding on Doomsday. Doomsday starts growing bones, sharp protrusions. So every time he punches Doomsday in the face, his hands are just getting bloodied and stuff, and he's taking like a beating, and he can't do it. He can't slow down. He can't recharge.
Superman
from the sun.
had like bruises on his face and blood and stuff like
on
that.
his
You're like,
face.
how's Superman getting hurt?
he'd never been hurt that way before, and he was trying to stop Doomsday because Doomsday's literally just going right towards Metropolis, and he knows he's got to do everything. This was written by Dan Jurgens, and there was a lot of other writers and stuff, but I got to give
Gary
most
Ordway,
Gary Ordway did the art. Dan Bogendev. So it was a great team up. This was the event of that time. Like there was like everybody was buying it and stuff. But later, after the death of Superman, we stopped Doomsday. Dan Jurgens wrote the Origin of Doomsday, and it was really cool because Doomsday was an experiment by Kryptonians to create a weapon of mass destruction, and he was genetically altered. And these scientists, as they created him, they literally would create a monster, pit him against something, he would die. Then they'd use the genetic code and then remake another monster. So now it's been able to adapt. So picture being generation upon generation of creature bred to die just to get better and better. So when Brainiac finally finds him, that creature has the biggest hatred for Kryptonians, and that's why he went like straight for Superman. So he's basically like anger, hate, rage incarnate and stuff. And it was a very brutal moment in comics. Like I remember like that cover where you just see the flag, or his cape, and Lois holding him, and you're like, whoa, he dead. Like this, like we never thought it would happen and stuff. I'll tell a story about how I got my copy of that book. So I was in high school at the time, and I was working for a small hobby store, and I was doing their comic orders. And I think I had only at the time ordered 30 of the bagged copies and maybe 25 of the newsstand or whatever, because there was a price difference, and we didn't know what was in it. And I remember that it hit the news that this thing was coming out. So I head there after school. Comics were coming out on a Friday at that time. So after school, I head there and I'm going to put the new comics up. And there's no Superman there. And I said to my boss, the owner, I'm like, hey, did we not get the Superman comics? He's like, no, we didn't get them. So me doing my due diligence, I call up the distributor and I'm like, hey, we didn't get our Supermans. What's up? And he's like, what are you talking about? I sent you your order. So the owner had basically, since it was hot, he ended up taking the books and then charging people, and had a wait list, and charged people like the next day, so the Saturday, $50 or $70 for that book. And they all sold, of course. I never at that time got a copy of the sealed black bag. But once I told my distributor that, he mailed me a newsstand copy sealed, and he labeled it order form for Andre, so the owner wouldn't open it up. So that's how I got my copy of it at the time. So it was a big deal. That book shot up huge right after and stuff, and it's still one of the greatest moments in comic publishing, not from a storytelling standpoint, but also the impact of nationalized media coverage of a superhero and the death of a hero. So.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's a great first pick that John threw down. I mean, he just dropped the big one on, right? Because that's right.
Try not
Andre,
to be too surprised.
I was older as well. I was I think is that 94. So I was just finishing high school or so. And it was everywhere. National news in the US, national news in Canada, CNN. I mean, the actual history, I would recommend people go out and get this and read it. Yes, it is full of 90s, verbiage and whatnot, but it holds up. Yeah. It is dated, but the overall story. But man, I would even suggest people go online and just look at the history of how this whole thing came about. The DC brass sitting there saying, what can we do? What can we do with Superman? And they come up with this idea, the history behind it, everything. It was just such a cultural moment in the 90s. So yeah, Andre hit it with that. Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so we're gonna carry on. So Goran, thank you for sharing the stories, but let me go on my pick because I want to make sure it's quick and so the comic series for Superman that I think is my favorite is All-Star Superman. So this is Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely's very cerebral take on Superman. He is Superman is gonna die shortly after being poisoned by some intense solar radiation. So he attempts to kind of prepare for his death and does 12 great feats that he has to accomplish before that time comes. So including telling Lois his his secret identity and hang out with Crypto. And then also, there's some moments with Lex Luthor kind of just realizing, what Superman is and kind of having that turning point. So it's a really 12-issue run. It's in a trade. It was also turned into a movie. The movie is, as you can imagine, difficult to encompass 12 comics into.
It's okay. It's good. I remember
it's
being
fine.
Good.
If you want to see some
being good.
Visually, it's fine, but it leaves a lot of things kind of left open. So if you have some time in the quarantine, you can watch that and then pick up the trade to fill up the gaps afterwards. But that's kind of my pick for favorite.
It's cool because it's got like almost like a vintage vibe to it. Like Superman has like the strong man kind of like with the goofy like Silver Age kind of style looking covers going on and things like that.
Yeah, and there's a good Lex Luthor like crying moment when he realizes what Superman sees and how he perceives just matter and time and space and whatnot around him. Superman doesn't see everything around like a regular human, and I think it does a really good job of emphasizing that he is.
He explored like his powers, like what it looks like for him to
yes
get people as skeletons and muscles and stuff like that.
It's intense. Okay, so that is mine. So Rob, you are up.
You know what? I was actually going to go with something we had mentioned last week, written by Jeff Johns, but I'm going to hold off. I'm actually going to go with something really recent, and this is part of the. And I'm not going to say it's my favorite overall story, but I think it's something that people can easily pick up and get into. It's also done by Dan Jurgens, who we just talked about. It's the Superman, the Lois and Clark. This is part of the rebirth. And the reason I bring this up is because it introduces their son, Jonathan Kent. And I think that Jonathan Kent has played a really important role in the comics in the last 5 years, I guess, since Rebirth hit, 4 to 5 years. And also because I think this is an easy entry for a lot of new readers to get in to learning about Superman. It does have a little bit of his history of from an alternate Earth to where he is now. And it will also, I believe, kind of be a bit of the backbone of the upcoming TV show on the CW. And the rumors are Jonathan Kent will be a part of that. So people are like, wait a minute, Superman has a kid? I don't understand. When did this all happen? I would highly recommend picking up this trade. Contact John or Andre before it was actually really good. And as a guy, John and Andre can attest. I was out of comics for many, many, many years. Grow up, you have kids, things just change around. I got back in towards the end of the New 52, and then when Rebirth hit, I grabbed this trade just to kind of understand when did he have a kid, and that's it's great. It's a great storyline. I would recommend it for sure.
Yeah. On that note, I got to recommend Peter
Andre,
Tomasi.
you got your time, buddy. Come on. Is it your? Buddy. You get at the very end to throw your thing. You don't get 2 shots, buddy. You get 1 shot. So I want
to be there. Add on to what Rob was talking about Jonathan Kent. So if you don't want me to say it to those people up listening to us, to get more information.
It's an expansion into the Superman as a family man line. Instead of them, they would go the opposite direction and try to make Superman darker and a single dude, and then they kind of leaned into that, which is what Andre's talking about, the Tomasi run, and then which leads into what Rob was saying.
I wanna make Andre work for it, so don't worry about it. It's fine. Keep him on his toes. So So sorry, Rob. Did you have anything else to say before?
No, it was a lot of fun. It brought back Superman from earlier. I remember working at a comic book shop when I was 11 in Uxbridge. There was no jobs, and actually I didn't work for money. I worked for comic books. It was in the top of a U-Haul, and I remember asking the owner, if I reorganize your books, can I take this? And it was John Byrne's Man of Steel reboot from 1986, and I'll never forget that cover. Just the symbol of him opening it up, right? And so that this new book gave me that kind of feel. Even though there's a lot of controversy regarding that Man of Steel 6-issue miniseries from John Byrne,
they tweaked his origin. That's why, right?
As a 10-year-old though, or 11-year-old, it really it spoke to me. That was really my big first memory of reading a Superman book, and so that's why I would really recommend this new that Lois and Clark. Don't be fooled by the Superman Lois and Clark title. It's not based on the old TV show. because people will. They're like, don't judge a book by its cover. I'm telling you, go out and grab
No
this.
Dean Cain, no Terry Hatcher.
No,
Come on.
no Dean Cain, no Terry Hatcher.
Stop.
Okay.
Go out and grab it. That's it. That's all I have to say.
All right. Okay, Andre, I'm going to give you, now it's your time to shine.
All right, I got 3 picks. No, just kidding.
I knew this was
John Ho method.
Six shots.
It's a 3-pronged thing.
I'm waiting for the joke one. The John Ho joke's coming out
that's
there,
right.
ready to go.
So it's no secret that my absolute favorite Superman story of all time is Man for All Seasons by Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb. But I've talked about that one so many times that I'm going to switch gears and talk about one of the Superman stories that gets a lot of flack for it, and even rumor has it the writer wasn't really proud of it. But I liked it because it really showed a side of Superman that we don't really see, and that's his vulnerable side. And it's the one from Brian Azzarello and Jim Lee.
Jim Lee? Yeah.
It's Superman for tomorrow.
I think that's underrated. That's definitely underrated.
Yeah, and this book is it's fantastic. First of all, you've got Jim Lee's art, okay, and Jim Lee, he's phenomenal. And Brian Azzarello comes from this crime fiction and kind of dark writing and stuff, but it's like, wow, look at that, like that's Superman, like that's him exploring space, like, you know, it's just epic. But the story in this one is that half of the people on Earth just vanish and disappear, and Lois is one of those. And Lois is really Clark's or Kal-El's tether to humanity. That's his connection, and he's lost that, and he's lost. And in this story, he confides in a priest. But as Stu is mentioning, Superman can see things and his powers and how he sees things differently. And it was really cool because he chose to talk to a priest that was dying of cancer. And that's why he picked him. He's like, my secret's safe with you, but you're also going to die. So I know you can't talk to anybody else. And the story was just really cool about him trying to figure out what happened, how life's going to go on, what caused the rapture and stuff. And there's also a really cool moment where the Justice League are trying to bring him in, and he gets them to stand down, but he also fights Wonder
Woman, Batman,
and and it was super cool because not only do we see that Wonder Woman can go toe to toe with Superman, obviously he's holding back and stuff, but there was also a moment where there was these kind of like forces of nature and stuff just kind of trying to stop Superman, and there's this giant like sand wind monster, and Superman was just like, he just says something, and it was along the lines of, he's like, you know what, yeah, you can attack me, you can destroy the planet, you can do this, but he's like, but I'll persevere. He's like, I survived the death of my first home. He's like, I'll survive the death of this home, and I'll go somewhere else and still be. So you cannot defeat me and stop me. And he didn't even have to fight this creature. The creature was just like, damn, if I pursue this, I'm only hurting the Earth, and it dissipates. And it's a very un-Superman moment, but you're like, yeah.
It's a very like Superman can't solve things by punching it storyline, which was cool.
So yeah,
I think a lot of people wanted that action, which is why it kind of like people were like, oh, I don't know, because it followed up Batman Hush, right? Batman Hush was like, I felt like a Batman action fest, and then they follow it up with this Superman, which is more of like a thinking man, like you can't just run. Like why doesn't Superman just fly around the world and take everybody out, and it shows that wouldn't work.
Yeah. So again, anyways, it's a great read. Highly recommend it. And like I said, I think it's highly underrated. Like I don't think there was really anything, bad about it. I thought the execution was there, and even if everybody has that interpretation of Superman, and he's still that guy. He's still the hero. But you get to see it from a different angle and stuff. And again, the art is fantastic. So yeah. That's
to change my shirt. I have the shirt of Superman stopping the bullets.
John, can you show us what shirt you're wearing right now? By the way,
what I'm wearing.
Yes,
the legend. I didn't know we were. I thought we were doing Whitney Houston. I thought we were going to do our top 3 Whitney Houston songs. So I was going to open up with "How Will I Know," and then kick into "I Want to Dance with Somebody."
And third,
and then like the obscure "Heartbreak Hotel."
I was hoping you'd only know 2 songs.
That was all my notes. No, man, I know them all.
Way to go.
Don't even test.
I thought you were Mariah head. I thought you loved Mariah.
Yeah. No.
Some deep cuts. All right.
Don't get into that.
People I know. All right.
Mariah Carey, people are like, did your account get hacked? I'm like, no.
No. We know. We'll one day go into the story of how you were not invited to a Mariah Carey concert. So,
man, my friend went to a Mariah Carey concert with his girlfriend and didn't invite me. I was pretty pissed. So
there's some insights for you all. Okay, so on that tangent, John, what is your favorite Superman in television
well, not
or
Mariah
movies?
Carey, I'll tell you that.
What is your favorite Superman in television or movies? That is up to you now. This is your new thing.
Go listen to Pearl Jam.
Whoa! The Tool hat says something different. He has a. There you go.
Tool. That's right.
Tool. That's right.
I haven't.
John, are you all right?
We're not going to go into it. All right. So favorite Superman. I'm going to leave Superman the movie open in Man of Steel, and I'm actually going to go with Smallville, and because just Smallville hit at the perfect time for me. I watched I don't know how many seasons it ended up being total. I know I didn't watch towards the end.
It's like 10 or 11.
Oh,
I feel like it's
I think
ridiculous.
I want to say the good first 6 seasons or whatever. Like were huge for me, and I remember joking on it, like because they would advertise it in comics. It would have Tom Welling tied up to the thing with the S spray painted on his chest, and as comic guys, we were like, yeah, this is ridiculous. You're gonna make a show based off of Clark Kent and Smallville and stuff like that. But Tom Welling, Christian Kirk, like Michael Rosenbaum, they just nailed it for that time. Like I guess because I was of similar age or stage in my life, and just it was a dream. Like who wouldn't dream like, oh man, if I was growing up in high school or in college, if I had superpowers, like it might have been your dream when you were a kid, and you're like, but you're not going to just run around showing them off. It kind of taught you like, oh, you're gonna have to keep these things a secret, be the hero, sacrifice some of the things you want, and like especially the early part of the show and the whole spin on Lex Luthor being his homie and stuff like that. They totally effed it all up towards the end, but that has to go down.
What was interesting about that, and I did watch it, and I agree with you, John. I think the first season, that pilot episode was amazing, and then it kind of got a little bit like they called it the Freak of the Week.
Yeah, Monster of the Week.
Really formulaic, and then it kind of by season 3, it almost found its legs and kept kind of going. But I remember watching an episode, and I feel like it was in season 5 or 6. It was the first time you actually see Clark Kent shoot up into the sky. I think he was trying to chase something. But he did this thing where he was on the ground. The ground started vibrating, and then the rock started, and then you saw that idea and that concept was used in Man of Steel. And I thought that was intense. The fact that they took that idea from the show and used that in the movie, that to me was like, I don't know, maybe it gave a bit more credibility to the show, but I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, even the one where he saves all the kids in the bus, that was very Smallville-ish.
Yeah. So before we jump on to John, do you have a favorite episode from Smallville that you'd recommend people to watch if that was the case?
I think you just have to watch the pilot. Some of the early stuff. They do have a lot of moments of like the teen angst where Tom Welling, is pining for the Christian Kirk character, but he kind of like sacrifices it. But there was I don't know. I would need more time to pinpoint some of my favorite moments in the show. But I do have the original promotional posters at my mom's place still.
Okay.
I would dig those up.
People know in Canada, at least, it's streaming on all 10 seasons are on
Prime.
Amazon Prime.
Yep.
So,
cool. So I will jump to mine as John has finished, and that wipes off.
Is it Superman 3?
No, it is Superman.
Oh, come on, Richard Pryor. I was very tempted to pick that.
My Superman is portrayed by the delightful Tim Daly, and that would be Superman the animated series. So Tim Daly did 52 episodes of, or 52, 55 episodes.
Tim
of
Daly
Superman.
of Wings fame.
That's correct.
The amazing show Wings.
Madam Secretary as well.
Madam Secretary, yeah.
And Private Practice. So let's do some
Private Practice. Forget about Private Practice.
Related to Time Daily of Spider-Man Homecoming. So this is a whole thing. But Superman the animated series, for those who are not aware, was the OG show back in 1996, I think. So it did a really it did what
it was after Batman animated.
It was after Batman animated series. So it was a tied shared universe, because when they first did that was the first DC crossover, when you did the episode where Batman and Superman come together, and the simple thing of Batman basically, Superman just uses his 3D vision. It's like, oh, that's Bruce Wayne. And then Batman puts a tracker on Superman, and then it's across with the binoculars. Superman notices him, and he's like, this is the skill of the two things. So that show did a good job because it introduced Aquaman, Wonder Woman, The Flash.
The best moment was when Batman flips Superman. Superman's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" and puts his hand on Batman's shoulder. Batman's like, "Whoosh." Superman's like, "What the hell just happened?"
Yeah,
I don't know if that was someone's moment later, but
yeah,
too bad.
No, you took it. Thanks a lot. No.
Introduced Green Lantern because that was the Kyle Rayner, because Kyle Rayner was working at Daily Planet and doodling, and introduced the Green Lantern Corps. So it did a lot of fun things where a world built, and it was the precursor to the Justice League TV show. But I think Tim Daly did a good job of balancing both being Clark Kent and Superman. His voice has a certain gravitas to it. And yeah, without a doubt, the crossover between Batman and Superman, the 2-part episode, is by far the best.
It's great. It's like a 45-minute, I think, total feature that you can buy, and it was at the time when it came out, we had it on loop nonstop.
It brought in the voice acting with Tim Daly, and then there was Clancy Brown, who is the greatest Lex Luthor, but that's another thing. And then Diane Delaney as Lois. But Clancy Brown, now every time I see him as or hear his voice, I just think Lex Luthor. But also, he has a certain role on SpongeBob SquarePants that most kids will know him as. But
Steve's number 2 favorite show.
Number 2 show, and number 3 is underrated performance in Shawshank Redemption. So I'll do that lined up as my Clancy Brown 1, 2, 3. But
we're gonna have some crazy episodes, folks. Because after Heartbreak Hotel, I've got a bunch of other songs that
so that would be my pick for that. So that is that. So Rob, it is up to you.
Okay. He's gonna pick Superman the movie to make up for last week.
The trickster himself. How are you gonna tricky dicky us today?
Listen, when we recorded the episode about Henry Cavill coming back to DCEU, you threw out
5 seconds after we finished. He sent us a video, and it's
your heart of hearts. Your heart of hearts. You picked.
I sent some video saying I should never have picked. Shut up, Stu. I went with Cavill, and I should have gone with and I said my heart. It was torn. I mea culpa. My favorite.
10 minutes of I'm torn.
Nope. Your heart picked, but but that's fine. You can.
He's gonna pick it. He's dug up his VHS.
Look at this. This was released in 1986. Look at the condition.
Is it rewound, or am I gonna have to charge you $5?
No, it's rewound. And look, it actually, I don't think you guys can see. It says a family classic.
It is a family classic. You can watch it with your kids.
That's right. I need to get my VHS.
Good luck explaining the time reversal thing.
It doesn't matter,
John. So I'm gonna go with Superman, Christopher Reeve as the quintessential Superman. I think everything that has come after has been based. We talked about this a few weeks ago. The Marvel movies. Kevin Feige makes everybody watch this movie before they start shooting on their respective movies. We talked about this before. I mentioned it earlier, but Andre brought this up last week. I mean, this is the Jeff Johns Secret Origin, but that's definitely based on Christopher Reeve. That face, Gary Frank drew it to look like
totally drew on it.
to look like Christopher Reeve. Christopher Reeve set the standard of what Superman as a character is, more so than anybody. You can go back to even the Batman portrayals on the big screen. People say, "Oh, Michael Keaton," but he didn't lay a groundwork to which people built upon. Everybody's made it different. Christopher throughout media. So Christopher Reeve was a quintessential, and I'm sorry, Stu, I know you're a big fan of Clooney, but Christopher Reeve,
slander.
Christopher Reeve.
What does Clooney have to do with this?
No, because they're talking about the Batman moving up.
Is it because your Nespresso machine's not working? Are you upset? Are you looking for any sponsorship? Do you need?
I think the only person who might be able to
Army Hammer
match would be Army Hammer. Would be able to match how well Christopher Reeve does on the screen would be Army Hammer. All respect to Henry Cavill. Let's bring Army Hammer in, and but anyway.
There we go. There's Kid Loki. I was waiting for it. I was waiting for the Army Hammer. He's gonna have to dye his hair because it's blonde.
Yeah, he can totally do it. Army Hammer would make an amazing Superman. And I think he's actually as tall as Christopher Reeve. So that's it. That's the quintessential Superman, because everything was based on his portrayal afterwards in comics, in television shows, and in some of the movies as well. Christopher Reeve.
What you missed was Rob flew around the world to backtrack his pick right there. He's like, "Oh, Henry Cavill. Wait, let me fly backwards in the universe." And
I was so torn about it. In all honesty, I did make a video to say I actually have a really nice Christopher Reeve. Somebody had painted a Christopher Reeve portrait. I picked up at Fan Expo a couple years ago, and
As much as you like bringing George Clooney, the Henry Cavill stuff will be thrown back at you. So let it begin. Let it begin.
They're facts.
Facts. This is facts. All right, Andre.
Oh, Andre got. I don't know. Is he gonna Man of Steel? Are you gonna Man of Steel again?
You can't Man of Steel.
Why can't I Man of Steel?
Okay,
all right. Then I'm gonna go back. Then if I can't choose Man of Steel,
you can be Man of Steel. Yeah, you can do whatever.
Superman 3.
You can pick whatever you want, Andre. We're just joking. Go for it.
Challenge of the Super Friends.
Whoa.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Whoa.
Yep.
Fantastic. So I'm a 70s kid, man. Watching that and seeing the Hall of Justice and seeing Superman, and he was just the Boy Scout, man. That was Saturday mornings watching that, man, and it was something special. There was a special time for cartoons, back then. Now, definitely the Superman animated series that Stu talked about, definitely a better cartoon. But seeing that back then, it was almost like getting Christopher Reeves every week in a cartoon, and Superman was in all of them, and just how he treated like everybody. You know what I mean? He was the leader. He was the everyman. He had the curl, and it was perfect, man. The animation was simple, but it was slick. The
narration.
The narration was great. Just everything about that. It was a simpler time, and it was just, for lack of a better phrase, it was just good, clean, wholesome superheroing, and that was pretty. It was pretty dope.
Lots of great life lessons. Yeah.
A few weeks ago, Andre, you were talking about how comics kind of helped shape kids' morals back, and I think that was a really good example of that TV show. You're right, man. Superman, the Super Friends, they did something that was great. You would watch it every Saturday morning, and it just kind of like filled you with hope and like optimism of stuff, right? I loved that show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ted Knight was a narrator of that, eh?
Yep. Great pick. And it's been spoofed over and over. If you watch Robot Chicken or watching another one, and it's like, here in the Hall of Justice. It's like that is the thing.
It's not even spoofed. You know what? To be honest with you, I think some of that is just straight up disrespect. Like you can poke fun at some things, but I think sometimes those Robot Chickens and those parody shows like the Family Guys and stuff like that, they disrespect that stuff, man. Like, listen, if you like something and you grew up with it, and you got to honor it, man. You can't shit on it like they do, man, and call it oh, it's funny, but that's just my take.
different comedy for different strokes for different folks. All right, so we're gonna jump on to the final topic. John, as a reminder, what is your favorite Superman moment?
Superman moment. So I'm gonna pick something a little obscure, and it's like I couldn't pinpoint an exact comic one, so I'm sure Andre's got like freaking 10 of them. So I'm gonna pick something that it's kind of it was like a lot like an opportunity that could be expanded. I'm actually gonna go to Rob's boy and go to Justice League, the movie that got released, and there was a scene that Josh Whedon put in where someone asked Superman what the S on his chest means. And he kind of like just kind of smiles and just, it's kind of like it means like hope, like, and kind of like he has like this lighter attitude, and it's like that's like a glimpse despite the whole mustache thing, which was really horrible. I wish they would just redo that one scene, and then I would go out and buy the DVD. I remember even watching it in the theaters and going, man, if his upper lip didn't look like a freaking giant piece of Play-Doh, I would totally buy this. I would buy this just for this one scene.
It's not going to be in the Snyder cut, so don't worry about it. He's going to cut that stuff out.
Yeah, but that's one of the things that's kind of a shame. Like that was one of the things that I felt that you know, like we talked about it, Josh trying to piece together what it was, but that was one of those moments that it was like, oh wow, like that felt like Superman to me. Yeah, when I saw that, and it was just a shame that like, man.
And that was for the opening scene of that movie as well. It
was right at the beginning, and you're like, wow, this is like, oh man, if this is the direction they're going with Superman, obviously the rest of the movie didn't quite line up, and they tried to sprinkle in parts like that. But I would say that's like a moment that actually like sticks out in my head that I wish we could get a new CD version of it, and I would just watch it as a clip over and over again.
Doesn't he have the same conversation with Lois in the room for Man of Steel? Because could you just superimpose his face from sitting in that chair onto his face as talking with the children? Because it's the exact same conversation.
No, but that's
I feel like the way he kind of like he played it.
That
like,
opening
scene was perfect.
Yeah, but that opening scene is
like I would watch it with the mustache.
Yeah, the kids ask him though. They say, "What is it you like about the planet Earth?" And he goes. And he kind of looks up to the sky, and then right before he answers, I think that's how that. He does say about the open, and that's how that clip ends.
It's again. There's some moments where I think, as much as it was an impossible situation for that movie with both Josh coming in and Snyder having his cut, is that the lighter moments, and we can all agree that was a really good moment. May not be there in the next Snyder cut, but again, we'll see what happens. Maybe he'll keep it and fix the CGI. Maybe $30 million can fix a mustache. We'll find out. So the thing, my favorite Superman moment is off the board, and no one's going to pick it. It is the Dragon, the Bruce Lee pick.
Yes.
It is
because he is a Superman as well.
It is Superman, Shadow of the Apocalypse. It is a video game from 2002 for Superman. It is for GameCube or for PS2, and I remember playing this as a kid on GameCube, because it was one of those moments. It was similar to Spider-Man, where you were playing Superman, and you would be able to fight crime, open world, and then you were able to fly around. And I remember spending hours flying up and then flying back and forth, and you know, flying through the city metropolis, kind of doing my own thing. It's the same reason that Spider-Man, the new one, is fun, is that web slinging around. You had moments to kind of just act and be Superman, whether it was flying around. You'd hear, you know, people calling for help. You'd fly down. You could use your laser vision, your heat vision, your all these different things to be the best Superman you could be. And it had the voice actors and the cel-shaded animation. So it was very, it wasn't full 3D rendering, so it had a classic look to it. And so, yeah, that is a moment to be as close to Superman and be Superman as possible. So
that is the one thing, though, that's been kind of disappointing, is that there hasn't been a really great Superman game.
Nope.
You've had Spider-Man for the PS4. Yep. You had the Arkham trilogy for Batman. Yep. Man, there's been always all these rumors that WB Montreal are working on a Superman game, and I just I want a good Superman game that's not.
You know
what? Mortal Kombat or
the
fighting ones. Yeah.
There's a game that got blasted, and it wasn't. It had potential, but Anthem by BioWare. The flying in that is legit. If they take the flying engine from that, they can make an amazing Superman. Also, the Disney Infinity games, the flying in that was amazing. It's worth buying those games just to fly as Nova, Iron Man, Thor, Falcon. Like, they can all fly, and the mechanics are crazy cool. And Infinity's a small open world, but it's still an open world. So check those games out too for an idea of how they could make flight for Superman.
Yeah, so that was a fun one, and the voice actor Tim does the voice of that one too. So that
Tim Daly did the voice on there.
Yeah. That one too.
Oh
so
man,
this is a lot of fun things at that time.
I had a game on Sega Genesis, and every bad guy just had a little piece of kryptonite in them, and that's how they made the game. Like you had to punch them, and that you would lose health. I was like, this is dumb.
Rob,
what do you got?
This is a tough one. This is a favorite Superman scene, right?
Yep.
Moment.
Yeah.
Man, there's just so many moments in the comics, but I want to try to go. Obviously, I've said this before, so I'm not going to use it. But about the scene in Superman the movie when he flies up, the first time you see him fly, that was amazing. Earlier, before we were on here, we were talking about Superman 3 when Superman and Clark Kent are fighting each other in the junkyard. It's the movie's bananas. But the one scene in recent Superman memory is Brandon Routh's Superman Returns. And as much as that movie is kind of a banana, like it's at the end of the day, he's kind of a creepy emo stalker. He doesn't really do anything. But that first scene of when you first see him as Superman, and he's flying up to rescue Lois in the space shuttle type craft, and it's falling, it's spinning out of control. Sir Richard Branson is acting like this, going, "Ooh," and it's flying down, and the wing comes off because he's pulling it to try to stop the descent and the spinning rotation, and the wing snaps off. I was like, wow. Usually Superman solves problems, and in fact, he actually kind of created one because he didn't it didn't work, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
And he smashes through it, and then but that scene in the ballpark where they're typical hitting the ball, and everybody looks up, and you see the plane coming down, and he gets in front of it, and he struggles to stop its descent, but the ripple this is that moment where all of a sudden you see the fuselage just rippling down as he's holding it, and then the nose crushes into his hands as he's using all his strength to try to stop to ensure that moment in and of itself. If nobody wants to watch the rest of the movie, I completely get it, and I would say thumbs up.
I think that's the only scene I've seen.
But that moment in that movie, there's one other scene on that movie that and I can touch upon, but that moment in that movie is phenomenal. That to me showed like a great Superman moment. And the only other part in that movie though,
I disagree with that. Like I remember watching that.
Bring it. All right.
Oh no.
Whoa. Well, you don't get to do this, Andre. No.
That's okay. That's all right.
That's his moment. You let him have his moment. And Andre, I'm going to give you a second to have your moment, and then we'll give a second.
But Stu, hold on a second. The reason that moment doesn't work is because he wouldn't do that. Like that's my whole problem with that movie is he was not Superman. First of all, he's smart enough to know grabbing the wing isn't going to do anything, and then if all he could do is stop a plane, like it looked like he could barely do it. Like, was this a Superman that had just woken up after
he was gone?
Yeah, he took time off, Andre.
In his eyes, and he couldn't do it. Sure, it looked cool, but that wasn't Superman. Like, come on, like.
I think though we have to remember though that was like an unofficial sequel to Superman 2. Right, and so
it was unofficially not Superman. Basically, again, very cool scene, but it wasn't Superman. Like,
I hear what you're saying, but as a scene with Superman in it, I really appreciated that whole entire moment.
That he was weak.
No, Andre, he had his moments. I think we talked about before. This is a director's vision, just like a writer gets to do their own Superman or own whatever, and that's it. He's still Superman. It just you have a writer do his own thing,
right?
It's
the only other
their
part
interpretation.
That interpretation just got the character all wrong.
Well,
like you said, he's an emo stalker who couldn't. Anyways, let's move on. I've said my.
I feel, Andre, we could do 50 comic book writers who've done poorly writing characters, and we could spend all day talking about how they disrespected this Batman or Superman or my boy Booster Gold. So I think you're just all depending on who writes the story. And if you have a bad writer on the greatest character, it's that's it.
Bendis.
so as we talked before, like Frank Miller did some good stuff with Daredevil, but that was a long time ago, and you don't get a pass.
No, and his Superman was crap. Sorry, Frank Miller fans, but that Superman Year One with JR is crap, and I don't like it. Whatever. Now Andre's got me all fired up.
So so that's I get it. So everyone gets their thing, and everyone gets their own interpretation. That's why we love comics, and because it gives different writers a chance to do different things. And we wouldn't have gotten the new interpretation of Superman if we had to basically set a standard, and this is the only way it can be done.
Right. It has to be different.
Has to change and evolve, or we wouldn't get Jonathan Kent. We wouldn't get a new Superman, a child or whatnot. So
there are moments though in that movie, and again, I get it. It's not a great Superman movie, but there are moments though when he gets stabbed in the back by Lex Luthor and his gang, and they're beating him up, and he gets stabbed with that kryptonite shiv. There is something about they wanted to kill him because he was different, and he felt alone in that moment. And I'm going to tell you that is if you just watch that scene and the emotion on that being played, and they want to kill him because he's not one of them, that resonates with a lot. So I just think there's moments in that movie that I think work. There's moments that don't work.
Andre, flash forward to 5 minutes from now when Rob is
Andre,
like, I should have chose Brandon Routh.
Superman got Kumar, man.
What's that?
Superman got beat by Harold and Kumar from Harold and Kumar.
Hey,
that
Harold
movie was
not involved.
So again, Andre, I said moment, not whole movie. So
I didn't pick Superman 2 taking his crest off and throwing it the cellophane onto non.
That you're allowed to do whatever because it's a moment in time.
Yeah, man.
You gotta slow this down. So what is
wearing a
your
Whitney Houston shirt? All right.
Hey.
Whoa, this just turned into something else. Okay, so Andre, what is your favorite Superman moment in time?
Do I get more than one or what?
No, one.
Just go quick. Get them all in.
Okay, go quick. Okay.
One moment.
My favorite Superman moment from the comics is the Jeff Johns run, Jeff Johns, Gary Frank. And it was Superman and the Legion of Superheroes, and he goes to the future, and there's a red sun, and he's losing his powers and stuff. The Legion are like, you can't come with us, and he's like, no, we got a job to do. There's people to save, and he can't fly, so he gets a Legion flight ring, and he's not bulletproof, and he's getting beat up, but he's just like, you know what? You never give up. You never stop. You do what's right. And there's a scene where he's confronting the villain, and he's just like, yeah, you don't know what it's like to have the strength to do this. And he's like, let's take this outside. And you see, I think we've got the image, and you see his hands bloody and stuff. And he's just like, yeah, you know what? This is what it's about. And that's what Superman is. He's the embodiment of just like, yeah, like that's the one. He's like, yeah, stand down, it's over, make this easier on yourself. And he's like, nah, man, life isn't easy. You get up and you keep fighting. And that's the most human moment, and look at him, flight ring, bloody, like, yeah, it's just, how do you not like Big Blue, man? Like he's inspiring, And I know Stu only give me one moment, but my other moment.
I'll give you a quick one. I'll give you a quick one. I'll give you one quick one. That's
from Kingdom Come, an amazing moment where he's fighting Shazam, and Shazam's been brainwashed and stuff, and he's getting beat, and he just grabs him and he just says, Billy, you are a man and a superhero. Decide, you save the world. And he doesn't fight him. He doesn't punch him. He just stops and he says, you decide, you save the world. And he just inspired him and got him out of that mind control, and it made him do the right thing. So again, we talk about how strong Superman is, how invincible he is, all his different powers, but his greatest power is his heart and his belief in humanity. So those are the moments that that resonate in comics for me. And the TV
That's a
show.
perfect way, Andre. You stuck the landing. That's the perfect way to end this. It can go nowhere but down after that. So I am going to finish this off because it's eloquent and perfect, and all we're going to do now is do bad things. So on that note, as we finish the podcast, I want to thank everyone again. Rob, where can we find you on social media?
I'm at Rob Gaudette, ROBGAUDETTE on Instagram and on Twitter. So that's where you can find me. Or comment in the YouTube videos, and I will respond.
As always, John and Andre, we talked about where you can find them and where you can buy their merch and where you can. Please go once things are operational, if you're in the GTA area, to visit their store. I feel they will still continuing mailing things out for purchasing if you want to buy stuff from away.
Yeah, so whatever people are comfortable with, curbside, mailing.
It's really important.
Some deliveries.
At the end of the day, regardless of whether things come back, is to support your local store. They really need your help. Whether it's, don't think that any purchase, anything is helpful. So if you can do it, support your store, local, buy stuff online, do whatever you can, buy a book, buy something, help people out, because right now we're in some difficult times. So
we mentioned a lot of trades. You guys got them, right? Or to get them.
Lots of things, or you can call John and Andre will recommend. The caveat is Andre has a few more Superman things ready to go. So if you like any of the titles, Andre has 5 or 6 more in the chamber, ready to go.
5 or 6 dozen. I love Superman.
Yeah, so
he's the man,
Yeah, so we have a couple
amazing
things.
Superman moment in that. That was but yes, thank you everybody for tuning in, and thank you for continuing to support, us through this, and find us, reach out even in these YouTube videos and comments, and we'll recommend stuff to you or whatever. We're lines of communication are open.
And if you guys put in comments or suggestions, we will put that in future episodes, because it's always helpful. So again, thank you very much for tuning in today, and be safe out there. Have a good one. Peace out. See you guys.
Thank you. Have a super day.
Bye.